I'm your host, Kelly Morgan, indie author and indie publisher. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Mic. Welcome to today's episode. Hey everybody, Kelly here. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Mic. And you know it's Monday because I have a guest. Today I have author Danielle Boone. She is here to talk about her book, In the Absence of, and I'm so excited that she's here. Danielle, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly, for having me on. I'm really excited to be on your podcast, The Author's
Oh,
Mind.
I'm so excited that you're here. So, first of all, I'm really interested in how you got to the point of writing this book. I'm pretty sure there's a story, and most people, when they start out on their journey, never really think about writing the book. It just kind of is the next logical step in their journey. So, tell me how you got to the point of writing this book and this platform that you have today.
Oh, it's life happened, and I spent 7 years after grief numb. And I didn't realize that I was numb. I was actually, my background is in television writing and producing. So I was working on a project with my writing partner. And this was after my mom passed. My father passed. And then 7 years later, my mom passed. And then there was a bunch of loss in between. And so I was working on a project with my writing partner. And he said, "You're not giving me your full creativity. So I want you to just take some time and think about what's going on and write for 30 days." He said, "Don't think about structure, don't think about story, just write." And so when I did that, I allowed myself to just really go deep within, like, what am I feeling? So it's kind of like journaling. I was just journaling. And a lot of things surfaced because I stopped the everyday and I just took the time to really go in and think about it. And when the 30 days was up, what I came up with, I thought it was the book. And he was like, "This is really good, but this is just the start." And I was like, okay. So, but I felt I had opened myself up. 5 years later, I was doing a coaching program, and which also new to me. I was always a behind the scenes person, but in this time of my journey, my life's journey, I'm being pushed out into the open. So I was in this coaching program, and we had to get in pods. And I was telling people about my story. Things would come up, questions they would ask, and I would talk about the story. And this one young lady was like, "You need to write this in a book. Like, people need to know this. You don't share this often." I was like, "No, I'm very private. I only share it if I see that it would help someone else." And so she said, "This will be awesome. I want to tell you about a program where a university professor has this program where you can write your book." And so I took what I wrote those 5 years before, and that was the start. And then I got in the program and just expanded it more. And I really started to dive deep into why I was still smiling, because that was a question people would come up with. How are you still smiling once they find out that all the things that I went through? And so I said, why, how do I keep smiling? I know it was resilience. I knew I was always a person, like, no matter what life throws at me, I'll figure out how to pivot and I'll move forward. I said, but what were those things that really helped me? What were those lessons that I was learning seemingly innately that other people maybe don't know how to figure out? And so that's when it came up. And my partner also helped me with the title. He was like, think about in the absence of whatever you've lost, whether it's a person, whether it's a job, a relationship, in the absence of, what can you find in that? What gem is hidden in that? What lesson is underneath the pain? And so when I started to dig deep, that became this book. And so even though it's my story, it's because I've decided to go through grief. On the other side of that, looking back, what were those lessons? What were those gems? And within that, I found my confidence, which brought me to being a speaker now, which brought me to being a podcast host, and now, which brought me into opening up this program to teach other people how to find those gems. And then the program is called the Resurgence Experience.
See, that's what I was going to ask you because, I always ask people, it's one thing to journal, okay, write all
Mm-hmm.
the thoughts down. It's another thing to say, okay, this looks like it could be a book. And so you go through the process of making it a book, but it's a whole nother thing to put it out there for the world. And not only did you not only just put the book out there, you have this whole platform. So
Yes.
what is the motivation behind wanting to do all of this? I mean, yeah, you've gone on your journey and you've healed yourself, but now I see you wanting to heal others. Like, is that just something inside you? What is that about? Where does that come from?
It naturally, I've always believed everybody has a story. Growing up, I didn't think my story was good enough because it wasn't bad enough.
Mm,
And so I'm originally from the west side of Chicago, but I don't have that typical story. I had two parents that love each other. I got along with my siblings for the most part. We didn't have it hard. We didn't have it great, but we didn't have it really hard. But there were lessons that I learned in that. And then all of these things that happened to me, I would minimize them because I'm like, oh, there's people worse off. And then when I went through this 7 years of all of these things, by that time, I knew how to get through. So, what I found out when I was open and said, let me share my story, other people who may have had a worse story or even a better story, they're like, man, thank you for opening up and even saying, being vulnerable enough to say whatever you went through, because we thought you were always strong. Like, we would have never known any of that was going on. So people began to see me as real, more real than they knew. And then other people learned how to look at the lessons in their own story. For me, I say you never know if your story will be the thing that helps save the person next to you. There are a bunch of people on platforms. There are a bunch of people who are well known, and we as a society generally, like, oh, okay, I'm looking at this person, but their story may not resonate with my real life. My story may be the thing that helps the person next to me, me say, oh man, I didn't know anybody else was going through that. And now not only did you go through it, you're on the other side, and I'm close enough that I can touch you. So I say, you never know if your story will be the thing that helps the person next to you take the leap they need or not jumping in at all. And so with that, I said, there are people who just don't know how to craft their story. As a writer, I can help you with that. Then there's the other thing, which where the program came from. After you go through grief, there's the 5 or 7 steps of grief, and you're okay. You think triggers happen because life continues. There are things that come up that bring you back to what the thing you lost or the situation that reminds you of that. And then you circle that grief all over again. So the program came so that I could teach people how to neutralize that trigger in the moment. They'll always happen, they'll always affect you, but you don't always have to take as much time to go through that cycle of grief. One. Two, how can I look at this thing differently? I call it resurgence, and a part of the program is called Rise, so that you can rise above the situation, not just to get out of it, but to see it from a different perspective. That's how you see the gym. So, for instance, Mother's Day just passed. My mom's birthday is a couple days before Mother's Day. Years ago, when she passed, of course, that hurt me. So there were times where I'm like, I don't want to think about Mother's Day. I don't want to think about, I'm just sad. I had to choose to look at what else can I think about my mother. Yes, I'm going to be sad if I want her around. If a song comes on that I'm like, oh, this is my mom's favorite song, it may make me sad. But I started thinking of things that I could honor her with. It takes time. I tell people this all the time. It's not like, oh, I'll think about the happy things and everything's will be fine. No, it takes time. Just like exercise for your body, you have to exercise your emotions and exercise your mind. So once you do it over and over, you continue to do it, you start to retrain your mind to say, I'm looking for the lesson. I'm looking for the moment. I'm looking for something else that can pull me out of this sad, painful moment that this trigger reminds me of. People just didn't know how to do it. And then I didn't think it was a real thing at first. But when I started talking about it, people were like, nobody has come to grief from, I've heard of affirmations. I've heard of like thinking of the good things, but learning to really understand that it's interrupting a pattern and finding out that you have to, what I call mindercise, you exercise your mind, and it gets a little bit less hard. Then it gets a little bit less uncomfortable. Then it gets easier. It's never easy. Loss is never easy, but you can make it easier to go through that moment. And so that's why I do it, just because I think life is meant to be lived. And sometimes we get stuck in loss and pain.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Danielle, if people want to find you, learn more about your program, do you have a website? How do we connect with you?
Yes, it's resurgencexp.com. It's resurgenceexp.com. And I'm also on social media at Hummibird, HUMMIBIRD 05. And yeah, and then Hummibird 05 on all social media, and then resurgenceXP.com.
Fantastic. And so, I think for a lot of people, grief is one of those things that they kind of coincide with depression, but I don't think they're the same thing, right?
No.
Grief is grief and depression is depression. And you can have grief and be griefful about things and grieve and have loss. And I think I always tell people it's okay to grieve, just don't stay there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just don't stay there.
Yeah.
But if you could give somebody one piece of advice, something that they can do easily, quickly to help them begin the journey to kind of get, kind of take control of that grief, of that loss, what would you
Mm-hmm.
tell them?
The first thing I would say is find a space to emotionally throw up. We as a society don't give enough space or time to just express whatever we're feeling. If we're sick, if our body is sick and there's a toxin inside, once we throw up, we're weaker. But
Mhm.
that toxin's out and you have the space for your body to nurture and heal. We don't think about that when it comes to our emotions or our mental state because, oh, you got to get over it. Find a space to, if you need to scream and let it out, let it out. If you need to cry, it's okay. Find that space to do that. Then you can start to see and really understand what you're feeling clear. You mentioned grief and depression. I feel like grief is about the experience. Depression is the emotion.
Mm.
Neither one of those are you. So there are three different pieces. There's you, the person, there's the experience, and then there's the emotion that we attach to it. If you learn to understand that those are three things, then it's easy to go through the process. But I would say the first thing is allow yourself, give yourself permission to grieve, give yourself permission to feel and express that feeling. Then you can start looking at the process a little bit clearer.
Wow, it was so great to have Danielle on the podcast talking about grief and depression and loss and ways to deal with it. Definitely go check her out. Let me give you my laundry list of things before I let you go. So, if you are looking for visibility, check out TrustBridge. That is my curated introduction service. I will create your media kit. I will do all the heavy lifting and introduce you to podcast, book clubs, and bookstores who are interested in meeting you. Go to TrustBridge Author Services and learn all about it. If you are on your author journey and you're looking for some free information, go to my website, get the guide. So you want to write a book, it's free. Go download it. Start your author journey. If you are interested in supporting me, I have two books out there. Wait for It and You Sound White. Both are available on Amazon and wherever good books are sold, but I do sell them myself. I will sign them, and I've even got some free goodies. And guess what? I will ship those bad boys at no charge. Also, I've got a two-part ask for you. If you are a reader, join our book club, the IRS. We start our new read on the 1st of June. So excited. Would love to have your voice and have you as a reader. If you are an author, pitch us. We only support indie authors, and I would love to grow this book club as big as possible because whosever book we read, think of the power and the eyes that we put on that person's book. So you can join us as a reader. You can pitch us as an author. All right, you guys, this has been the Author's Mic. Thank you for joining me. And if this resonates with you, if you know an indie author or a creative in this space, send it to them. Have them come on the Author's Mic and subscribe to whatever platform you're watching this on. All right, I'll catch you next Monday.